The restaurant was dimly lit, with soft jazz humming in the background and candles flickering on each table like tiny fireflies. I had worn the red dress he always said he liked, and I even curled my hair the way I used to when we first started dating. It was our 10-year anniversary, and I wanted everything to feel special. He was already sitting when I arrived, looking calm, polished, almost too relaxed. I brushed it off as nerves, or maybe he had something romantic planned. The waiter brought over champagne, compliments of the house, and we clinked glasses. I tried to meet his eyes, but he kept looking down at his plate or around the room. Still, I smiled and chatted, telling myself not to overthink. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart skipped. I thought maybe it was a necklace or earrings or a new charm for the bracelet he got me years ago. Something sweet, something thoughtful. I opened it eagerly. Inside was his wedding ring. I stared at it for a second, confused. Maybe it was symbolic, I thought. Maybe he wanted to renew our vows? I want a divorce, he said, like he was ordering dessert. No emotion, no hesitation. I think we've both known this was coming. I didn't say anything right away. I couldn't. It felt like the room spun slightly. My mind tried to catch up, but it was like trying to stand still in a crashing wave. My chest felt tight, and my fingers clutched my napkin so hard it tore. He went on, saying things like we've grown apart, and it's nobody's fault. He even smiled a little, like we were agreeing on what movie to watch. Like this was a civil discussion between friends. I kept nodding slowly, staring down at the ring in the box. My voice was stuck somewhere between my heart and my throat. The waiter came back with our entrees and placed them in front of us like nothing had happened. I looked at the plate, then back at the man I had spent a decade of my life with. The man who had just ended it all with the same tone he used when asking for the check. He picked up his fork. We can still eat, right? I reached for my purse, stood up, and said calmly and clearly, okay. He looked up, confused. Okay. I held his gaze, voice low but steady. Then you won't be needing your house keys anymore. And I walked out. Looking back, it was all there, right in front of me. The signs weren't subtle. They were loud, screaming even, but I kept covering my ears. I told myself stories to feel safe. That's what we do when we love someone, right? We lie to ourselves before we accept the truth. It started small. A couple of missed calls, late nights at work. He claimed his boss was demanding, that he was chasing a promotion. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. After all, we had bills, dreams, future plans. But then the business trips started happening more often. Random weekend conferences in cities that didn't make sense. No photos, no receipts. Just stories that felt thinner every time he told them. He became weird with his phone. At first, he'd leave it lying around, face up. Then one day, I noticed it was always face down, always in his pocket. He changed his lock screen password and told me it was for security reasons. I nodded. Security from me, apparently. I remember one night I asked him if he wanted to do a movie night, something we used to love. He didn't even look up from his phone, just said, "Not tonight, I'm tired," and went into the bedroom, shutting the door behind him. I sat on the couch alone, still holding the popcorn bowl, wondering what I'd done wrong. I kept thinking maybe I was the problem. Maybe I wasn't exciting anymore. Maybe 10 years had just dulled us. So I tried harder. I planned date nights, little surprises. I bought new lingerie. Once, I cooked his favorite meal and waited for him to come home. He didn't show up until midnight. Said he got caught up at work. He didn't even touch the food. Just showered and went to bed. I still remember the night I finally allowed the thought to cross my mind. What if there's someone else? But then he brought me flowers the next day. Randomly. No occasion. Just dropped them on the kitchen counter and kissed my cheek. I thought, see? Maybe he's just stressed. Maybe I'm being paranoid. But even the flowers weren't right. He used to know my favorite kind, sunflowers. These were roses. Red ones. Too romantic. Too cliché. Not me at all. I should have known they weren't meant for me. They were meant to cover something up. I didn't want to dig. I didn't want to become that wife, the one who snoops, who accuses. So I told myself it would pass. That all marriages have ups and downs. That love could fix it. But love can't fix a lie. And I'd been living with one for far too long. When I got home that night, my hands were shaking. I wasn't even sure how I'd driven back. My heart still hadn't caught up to my brain. I walked through the front door and dropped my purse on the hallway bench, like I had done 100 times before. But tonight, everything felt foreign, like I'd stepped into someone else's life, someone else's home. The silence in the house was deafening. No TV murmuring in the background, no hum from the dishwasher, no footsteps upstairs. Just me and the low buzz of betrayal in my ears. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for when I noticed his laptop open on the kitchen counter. The screen had gone dark, but the lid was still up, humming softly, like it had something to say. He always kept it close. Took it with him everywhere. Even when we went on weekend getaways, he packed it, just in case. And suddenly, for the first time in months, It was left open and unattended. I touched the trackpad. The screen flicked to life, no password prompt. Just his desktop. My hands hesitated. My breath caught. Then I clicked on a folder labeled Work Docs. My gut told me that wasn't what it sounded like. It opened to reveal subfolders with weird names, random dates, numbers, cities. I clicked one, Chicago 4.22. Inside were plane tickets, a hotel confirmation, 4.2. I opened the next one, Vegas 3.8. More bookings, dinners, spa packages, 2 guests. Always 2. Then I saw it, a folder called Ava Kissmark. My mouth went dry. Inside were selfies of a woman I'd never seen before. Tall, blonde, big smile, barely dressed in most of them. In one, she wore his hoodie. In another, they were in a hotel mirror together. She was holding his phone to take the picture. My fingers were ice as I clicked through the screenshots of messages. Ava, miss you already, babe. Counting down the days until Miami. Kissmark. Him, me too. Can't wait to get away from everything. Ava, even your wife? Smirking face. Him, especially her. That one hit me in the chest like a brick. Especially her. He wasn't just unhappy. He was done. And he had been for a while. I sat there for a few minutes, staring at the screen, trying to swallow the lump forming in my throat. But then something shifted. The sadness started to cool. Harden. I opened the screenshot tool and began saving everything. Every message, every booking, every half-naked picture she sent him. I emailed the files to myself and backed them up to a flash drive. I didn't cry. Not that night. I planned. He walked into the kitchen the next morning like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just shattered 10 years of marriage over dinner the night before. He poured himself coffee, humming lightly under his breath, and didn't even glance at me sitting at the table. I waited until he took a sip, then said quietly, "So, her name is Ava?" His hand froze for a second midair, then he set the mug down. No panic, no guilt. Just a pause like I'd asked what time his meeting was. He sighed. "You went through my laptop." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He rubbed his jaw, still calm. "Look, I didn't mean for you to find out that way." I blinked. "Really? So what way were you planning?" He shrugged. "It doesn't matter now. We've both known this wasn't working. We fell out of love. It happens. Just like that. Like we were some casual couple who'd simply grown bored. Like we didn't have a home, memories, a whole life wrapped up together." "No," I said, voice shaking but steady. "You cheated. Repeatedly. You lied. That's not just falling out of love." He rolled his eyes. "It's not black and white, Maya. Things change. People change. You stopped being." "Careful," I interrupted. "Don't you dare try to blame this on me." He didn't argue. Just leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "I'll start looking for a place soon. No need to make this messier than it already is." That's when it happened. That shift. That snap. I stared at him, stunned. Not by the betrayal, but by the arrogance. The entitlement. He really thought he could walk out clean. Take the easy road. Like this wasn't my house. Like he wasn't just a guest now who had long overstayed. I leaned back in my chair and smiled, tight, sharp. "Oh, you're moving out soon?" He nodded. "Yeah. I'll be out within a month. I just need time to get my stuff in order." I took a slow sip of my tea. "You'll be out much sooner than that." His brow furrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" I stood, looked him dead in the eye. "It means you've got a few days. Tops." He scoffed. "You can't just kick me out. We're still married." I grabbed my phone from the table and walked past him. "You're right. We were married. But the deed to this house? It's in my name. Always has been." He didn't speak. Just stared at me as I walked upstairs. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. He wasn't my husband anymore. He was just a man trespassing in my home. The lawyer's office smelled like old books and lemon cleaner. It was quiet, too quiet, except for the soft clicking of a keyboard and the occasional shuffle of paper. I sat across from a woman named Helen, mid-40s, sharp suit, no-nonsense eyes. She didn't offer me pity, which I appreciated. Just facts and calm explanations. "I just want to know what I'm entitled to," I told her. "The house is mine. Bought it 2 years before we got married. He's never paid a cent on the mortgage." She nodded. "If it's in your name and not considered marital property, it's yours. But we should run a full financial check just in case." I agreed. Gave her access to our shared accounts, plus the ones I knew about. 2 days later, she called me back. "You're going to want to sit down for this," she said. My stomach dropped. She explained how he had opened a credit card in my name about 8 months ago. Used my social security number. Maxed it out. Luxury dinners, hotels, flights. Every destination matched the folder names I'd found on his laptop. "Wait," I said, trying to catch up. "You mean I'm in debt now? For things I didn't buy?" "For her spa weekend." "I've already started the fraud process," Helen assured me. "We'll dispute the charges, and we have plenty of proof that you weren't the one using the card." Still, it hit me like a punch in the gut. He hadn't just cheated with his body. He'd used my name, my credit, my identity. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was theft. And it didn't stop there. He also transferred about $12,000 from your joint savings into a separate account about 2 months ago. I traced some of it to an account under a woman's name. Ava Marks. Ava. He wasn't just spending money on her. He was bankrolling her, funding their little secret romance with my savings. Money I'd set aside for home renovations, for the future, for us. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just been lied to. I hadn't just been replaced. I'd been used. I sat in my car after the meeting, staring through the windshield at nothing. My fingers gripped the steering wheel, nails digging into the leather. I wasn't crying. I couldn't. The sadness had drained out, leaving something colder behind, something sharper. He had played me like a fool, taken my love, my trust, my name, and turned it into a ticket to some new, shiny life with another woman. But what he didn't know, what he never bothered to notice, was that I wasn't weak, and I wasn't done. I stopped talking to him as much as I could. No more arguments, no tears, no slammed doors. I gave him silence and politeness. The kind that feels more like poison than peace. He thought I was accepting it, that I was finally letting go like he wanted. I let him believe it. But behind the scenes, I was building something. Something precise. Something legal. The first thing I did was call Helen again. He's technically not on the deed, I said. So legally, what is he? She didn't even pause. A guest. That one word flipped a switch in me. Guest. Not co-owner. Not tenant. Not partner. Just someone staying in my house out of kindness. Kindness he no longer deserved. Then I want him out, I said. She explained the steps. I couldn't just throw him out immediately, but I could start the paperwork to evict him, just like a landlord would with a stranger who refused to leave. So I filed the proper forms carefully and quietly. No emotional emails. No threats. Everything on paper. Everything legal. Then I moved on to the house. The security system? I changed all the codes. Every door, every camera. I created a new user login only I controlled. I installed 2 extra cameras facing the driveway and front door, just in case he decided to get creative. I started recording everything. Every time he said something shady. Every time he came in late. Every time he made some sarcastic comment about me, still being bitter. I logged it. Time. Date. Words. And I smiled the whole time. Do you want anything from the store? I'd ask like we were still friends. He'd glance at his phone. Whatever. Get some beer if you want. Smile. Log it. I began separating my things too. Slowly, quietly. My important papers, my jewelry, my grandmother's watch, into a safety deposit box. Our shared bank account. I pulled my name from it and moved my money. Left just enough to keep up appearances. I even cleaned out the guest room. Not for him. For whatever plan he thought he had next. Let him think he had space. Let him feel comfortable. Because the truth was, he'd already walked into the trap. All I had to do was shut the door. He had no idea that an eviction notice was coming. That soon a sheriff would be at our doorstep. That the house he strutted around in like he owned it had legally never been his. He thought he'd played me. But I was done being the wife. I was done being the fool. Now, I was the landlord. And his time was almost up. It was a Thursday afternoon when I came home from work and found a pink suitcase in the hallway. At first, I thought maybe a friend was visiting. Maybe he had a relative in town. But then I heard her laugh, loud and fake, echoing from the kitchen like nails on glass. And there she was. Ava, in my kitchen, wearing one of my hoodies, eating chips straight from the bag, like she'd always belonged here. I stood there in silence, not saying a word. She smiled like we were old friends meeting again. Hey, she said, wiping her hands on a paper towel. You must be Maya. I looked at her, then looked past her at him, leaning against the counter, arms crossed like this was perfectly normal. She's staying for a few days, he said flatly, just until she finds her own place. I nodded slowly. Of course. He blinked. Really? I smiled. Sure. What's one more tenant? He didn't get it. Ava didn't either. But I was already recording. My phone was in my pocket, voice memo running, capturing every word, every smug laugh. Ava moved into the guest room that night, left her toothbrush in my bathroom, put her makeup bag on my counter. She took up space like she owned it. I never told her she didn't. Instead, I made her coffee in the morning, brought her towels, asked if she needed anything, like a real landlord. But she couldn't help herself. She wanted to feel like the winner. You know, she said one night, flipping her hair, I didn't take him from you. He left because he was tired of living with someone so stuck. I raised an eyebrow. Stuck? Yeah. Like you don't even try anymore, right? You're just sad. Pathetic even. I smiled again. That's good feedback, eh? Really? She smirked. Just saying. Noted. I pressed stop on the voice memo. She didn't notice. Over the next few days, she got bolder. Louder. Left her bras on the couch. Played music in the shower. She even tried to redecorate the living room, moved my grandmother's vase to make room for a fake plant she brought in from her car. I watched. I let her. Every insult, every smug comment recorded. Every time she called me pathetic or rolled her eyes when I walked into the room, I documented. I kept receipts of her Amazon packages. Took pictures of her things piling up in the guest room. Because legally, that meant she lived there. And once you live somewhere, really live there, you can be evicted. Just like him. She thought she'd won. That she was replacing me. But she wasn't replacing anyone. She was squatting in my house. And soon, I'd be kicking them both out. Saturday morning came quiet and sunny. Birds chirped outside like it was just another day. Inside, the smell of burnt toast drifted from the kitchen, mixed with cheap cologne and perfume. I sat on the porch with my coffee, dressed, calm, and waiting. At 9:02 a.m., a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Helen stepped out, looking sharp and businesslike as always. Behind her, a marked deputy car rolled in, and a tall officer stepped out with a clipboard in hand. Showtime. We walked to the front door together. I didn't knock. I opened it. After all, it was my house. Inside, there they were, exactly as I hoped. He was sitting at the kitchen table in a gray robe, sipping coffee. Ava, in an oversized t-shirt that used to be mine, was spreading jam on a slice of toast. They both looked up in slow motion. First confusion, then recognition, then panic. Morning, I said cheerfully, placing my coffee mug down. Hope you two slept well. Ava rolled her eyes. What's this supposed to be? Helen handed the papers to the deputy, who stepped forward. I'm serving official notice of eviction, he said in a bored, practiced tone. You have 72 hours to vacate the property. What? Ava stood so fast her chair screeched. You can't just, this is illegal. No, Helen said flatly. What you're doing is illegal. You've been residing here without the property owner's permission. That's trespassing. He stood too, confused and disheveled. Maya, come on. Can we talk about this? I looked at him like a stranger. Talk. You stopped doing that months ago, remember? I just need time. You've had time, I said calmly. And now you have 72 hours. He looked at the deputy. You can't make us leave just like that. The officer shrugged. No one's dragging you out today. But if you're still here in 72 hours, we come back. And it won't be this friendly. Ava's mouth twisted like she'd just tasted something sour. You're pathetic. This is so petty. I tilted my head. Oh, don't worry, Ava. You'll both land on your feet. Maybe not together, but who knows? She stared at me. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. I just smiled. I watched them both sink into a mix of anger and disbelief, clinging to their breakfast like it would protect them. You should start packing, I said lightly. Boxes are in the garage. You're welcome. And then I turned and walked out the front door, sunlight warm on my skin, coffee still hot in my hand. Behind me, I could hear Ava muttering curses, him trying to reason with her, the officer explaining next steps. But I didn't look back. They were no longer my problem. They were just squatters, on borrowed time. It had been 2 weeks since they'd left. The house was quiet again, clean, peaceful. I'd donated the guest room bedding, tossed out the cheap wine glasses she left behind, and saged the whole place for good measure. I was halfway through reorganizing the closet when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hello. A pause. Then a voice I recognized, but barely. It's Ava. I stood still, hand frozen on a hanger. I figured. There was no sass in her tone this time. No smugness. Just exhaustion. I just thought you should know, she said. You weren't the only one he lied to. I leaned against the wall. Go on. She let out a bitter laugh. His name's not even what he told me it was. He gave me some modified version of his middle name when we met. I only found out when I was helping him get organized, after you kicked us out. I started digging. I said nothing. Just let her talk. He's been married before. Before you. Another woman. A kid too, apparently. He never divorced her legally. They separated, but no paperwork. She lives in Colorado now. My stomach turned. You're saying, I was never his legal wife. You might have been, but not the first. And not the last either. There were others. Not wives, but women. Some overlapped. He kept a second phone. I found it in his gym bag. The silence between us stretched. I left him, she said finally, 2 days ago. Packed my car and drove to my sister's. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe just, I needed someone who'd understand. I took a deep breath. I do. We sat on the line for a moment. Not enemies anymore. Just women who got played. I thought he loved me, she said softly. He told me you were cold. Controlling. That you didn't care. I closed my eyes. He told me you were just a phase. A mistake. He's good at lying. That's all he ever did. She sniffed. I heard her try to hide it. I feel stupid. You're not, I said. You were just the next target. After a beat, she asked. What are you going to do now? I looked around my empty, quiet home. My name's still on the deed. My credit almost fixed. My dignity intact. Live, I said. Without him. Happily. She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then quietly, yeah. Same. We ended the call not as friends, but as survivors. Both burned by the same man. Both better off without him. Later, I heard through someone that he moved in with a cousin across town. No job. No money. No one left to con. Good. He'd spent years building his double life. Lying, cheating, stealing. Now he had nothing. Except the truth. And finally, he'd have to live with it. It's been 5 months. The house feels like mine again. No more tension in the air. No more waiting for someone to come home late, smelling like a stranger. I painted the living room a warm, sandy color. Got new curtains. Rearranged the furniture. It's amazing how a space can breathe again when the wrong people are. I joined a gym. Not because I wanted revenge body nonsense, but because I needed to move again. To feel strong in my skin. Some mornings, I go for long walks and leave my phone at home. I sleep better. I eat better. I laugh without guilt. Last month, I took a solo trip to Arizona. Drove through the red rocks, windows down, music blasting. I watched the sun set over the desert, completely alone, and perfectly okay with that. But still the emails come. Always from the same address. No subject line. Just his name. The first time I saw it, my stomach flipped. That old reflex. That ache that once lived in my chest. But I didn't open it. I stared at it, hovered over it with my mouse, then moved it straight to trash. They kept coming. 1 a week, sometimes 2. I never opened any of them. Not a single one. I don't need to. I already know what's inside. Regret. Excuses. Maybe even some fake version of an apology. Maybe he wants closure. Or forgiveness. Or maybe he just wants to know if I'm still hurting. But I'm not. I've rebuilt. Not just my life, but myself. He doesn't get to touch that. Not anymore. Today, I was checking my inbox for something work-related, and there it was again. Another one. No subject. I didn't hesitate. Click. Trash. Gone. I don't feel angry anymore. Not even sad. Just done. Free. He wanted out. He said it so casually that night over dinner, like he was ordering dessert. I want a divorce. Well, he got it. And then some. He asked for freedom. I gave it to him. Right out the front door.